Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. I just got my bundle on Flourish from the main catalog, and it is made up of 2 stamp sets with a lot of messages in wording here, and some stamps of this beautiful flourish and some flowers and leaves. And today, well, along with that comes the bundle. With the bundle is this Flourish Thinlet die bundle. And this set is amazing. I want you to look at that. There are 10 dies in this set, and they've got just all kinds of flowers. There's a very large flower, that's this one. This flower here, which is this one, and a couple of smaller ones, and this beautiful Flourish die, which is what I used here. And it's just got all kinds of pieces here that make this a particularly wonderful stamp set to use. And I've played with this just a little bit. I've used this piece in another card, and I just hadn't really taken this out and really used it, and I did for this card, and I had so much fun with it. I thought I would share with you today what I did. So it is the Flourishing Phrases stamp set, and the dies are the Flourish Thinlet dies. And that's what I used to make this card today. My sentiment here I did with another stamp, and this time I'm using the Thank You from Gift of Love, and it produces this particular sentiment here. And I used an older set when I did this first flower here. The other thing I did was took this little bird from our it's not Best Birds. I can't remember. I'll make sure I put the name down. And so I used this little bird on here as well for this card. And I just love the way it came out. It's so festive. And I decided to make this one Thank You. You could certainly do birthday. There's any number of things you could do, and I just went for color this time. So what I used to make this card was I took a piece of Whisper White, which is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then this is take 2 of my video, so some things got done a little bit ahead of time. This is a piece of Emerald Envy, and this piece is cut 4 1/4 by 5 3/4, I believe it is. 5.5. So anyway, it's just a quarter of an inch short of this half of the card. And then a black piece that is 4 by 5, and that sits again just with the tiniest green border around it on the outside of the card, just to give you this hint of the Emerald Envy. It's such a pretty color. And then you'll need lots of scraps. I used a scrap of basic black to cut out my sentiment and do that. Then I have a scrap of the Emerald Envy to create the outside border of this, and then for some decorations on the inside of the card as well. And then you can certainly pick whatever you'd like. I just picked a variety of scraps of brightly colored cardstock. Here I've got rose and turquoise and melon mambo, and I've got an orange here that I used, and a rose color, reds. Just this one was a lot of fun, just because I could just take a few pieces of cardstock and cut out a bunch of flowers. And what I did was because no two of the ones that I make are exactly the same. So I created my little baggie here that is full of flourishes and extra leaves and extra flowers so that I can just put one together as I need here, and just made lots of them. So this was kind of a fun thing to do. The other thing that I used for this card was the layering ovals framelits, and I used the smallest one to create the one with the sentiment on it, and then I embossed that in white, and that was done in the first video before I made such a mess of it I had to do it over. And then I used the smallest of the scalloped ovals here also to make the backing for this one. You can see that that's just slightly different on this one than it was on that one. And so, excuse me. So that's what we need to do, make this card. Now, for cutting out all of this stuff, the layering ovals is just regular cutting. So that is your base plate, your thin die adapter, and your cutting plate, then your paper and your dies in another cutting plate, just for normal cutting. But for the rest of this stuff, because it is pretty intricate, what I did was I used the basic platform, Big Shot platform, the thin die adapter, and then the precision base plate here, metal side up, then my paper, like I did on some of these, and my dies on top of that, and then my cutting plate, and ran that through the Big Shot. So that was what I did, and so I have a lot of that stuff cut out ahead of time. And once you get that cut, this is the simplest card in the world to put together. So let's just take our I've already adhered the outside, or the Emerald Envy, to the card base here. We'll set that aside because all of our work is done on this black panel here. And what I have is this beautiful Flourish. And so to sort of see how everything fits on here, the Flourish, and then I thought this part of the card up here is kind of bare. So what I did was, in some of the cards that I did, I cut this little piece here, and what I'm doing on these, let me get my snips here, is I'm cutting off this little flower here. And I'm doing that, and I'm sure I can find a use for that someplace else and go back in my bag of little flowers here. And I did that on that part of the Flourish and this part of the Flourish as well. And I did that because I didn't want those sticking up behind where you could see, since these flowers are so open in their makeup. I didn't want to see the other flower behind it. So what I did was angle this across the card here, and then set my biggest flower up here, and then I added this piece in here so it looked like it was coming out of the same plant, and you can just find a place to put it there. And it just gives you an opportunity to have a stem and a leaf coming up here, so that when you put this flower up here, it looks like it belongs. Then I have this little blue flower for down here, and then I just put a couple of other different colored ones around, and then I thought this place that I connected the two could use something on it, so I put this little guy in here. And then that left me plenty of room down here to put my sentiment down here, and in this case I cut a little melon mambo bird, and I'm going to put my little bird right down here. And so that's kind of the configuration of the card, and all we have to do is put that together. So, and I'm using Tombow for most of this assembly. So I'll get my Tombow out here and my silicone mat. And I am going to take advantage of all of these places on this Flourish where there's these round bud looking kinds of things. And every place that there is a wider piece on a leaf, trying to make sure I capture the ends. So I want some on the stems and various places so that I can make sure that this sticks down pretty well. And I think you can see all of that on camera. Let me just move that up a little bit. You get so in the habit of putting things down close to you so you can see them that sometimes I forget I'm on camera. Okay, so if I take this and I want to make sure when I place this down that I have enough room left for my sentiment at the bottom. And I think that looks pretty good. I see a little space there where the little piece of greenery didn't punch all the way out. Okay. So now that looks like it's missing a little bit of glue. I'm going to try and add a little touch of glue right under here to that piece so that it sticks down. Okay, then it's a matter of fitting my pieces again. Now this little piece here, if I have it come just under this leaf here, it really does look like that's where it goes. So again, I'm going to use my silicone mat and add some glue to this piece. And then put that in place. I've got a little bit too much glue. It's coming over the top on this. So I'm going to wipe that off. I can always go over with my glue eraser later and make sure that I've covered everything. Yeah, I've got a little bit of it oozed out there. I put too much in the middle. But that cleans right up, and then the glue eraser is magic after that's had a chance to dry. I'll get that lifted up. This one on this card seemed to be floating a bit more, and when I looked at it I wasn't crazy about that, so I'm trying to anchor this one in a little bit closer to the flower here. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is my largest flower, and this has got plenty of spaces on the back here to put a little bit of the tombow. It's just such a cheery card, and this is the first time I've really worked with these dies, with the exception of that one long piece, and I just think you can do an awful lot with this. It's got lots of possibilities. I love the open nature of the flowers and the leaves, and I tried putting more solid flowers in addition to the ones that were open, and it really didn't work. They needed to be similar. So there we go, having that large flower in place. And then I put the yellow one up here. I think I want that right about there, so I'm going to add some more tombow here. Okay. I have gotten a little carried away with the glue on this one. put that up, and I think that fills up that corner a little bit better. I like this one a little bit better than the first one I did. And again, after that dries a bit, I'll go back with my glue eraser and pick up any little spots that need a little glue taken off. I can see one here that's already dry. And my fingers are covered in glue now, so now I'm putting down glue instead of picking it up. So now a couple more pieces, and I think this blue one I kind of like over here. You'll notice this one is a little different. There's an open flower in the Rose Thinlet bundle, and there's another one that kind of works with this in the embellished ornaments that has this open cutting, and I was experimenting with some of those. But for this video, I thought this set has enough of these pretty flowers all by themselves in just this set. So one wouldn't have to have a whole bunch of die sets. You could make this card easily with just one die set. And we can't always have all of the, like to have them all, but can't always have all of the dies out there. So try to make this be with a one die set, so that if you wanted to make something like this, having this one die set and the stamp set with all of those wonderful sayings on it makes this a really good value. Because like I said, this bundle has 10 dies in it. And the dies are gorgeous. I mean, these flowers are stunning. And I've really enjoyed putting this one together and deciding what I wanted to go on here. It was just a lot of fun to try and figure out what would be the best on this configuration. And I could have gone with a lighter card and some other things, but I thought this one with the black, it just made it so dramatic. So I'm going to put this little flower right down here where I joined that other branch. And then with all of these, you'll see I'm going to put a big rhinestone in the middle of it, so it'll completely hide the fact that that's an addition, and I think I like that look a little bit better. And then this little guy, a little understated, but I thought this part of the card down here doesn't have a lot of color, so I'm going to add this one down here on the bottom. And again, just a little tombow on the tips and in the center of this one. There we go. And put that in place right down here. And I'm going to use my baby wipe here to pat that into place and pick up any extra glue. There we go. All right, and you get saved a little bit of time watching today because I've already done my sentiment here, and I'm going to use a little bit of snail on the back of this one to put it on my scalloped oval. There we go. And then I'm going to use a few dimensionals to pick this up a little bit and add a little bit, since everything else is kind of flat on this card. A couple of dimensionals on the back of this. And I'm going to put my thank you way down on the very bottom of this. I think that's straight. Maybe not so much. There, that's more like it. Now on my little bird, what I needed was just a couple little pieces of dimensional. So I'm cutting right along the edge here, the bones, and I'm going to put a little piece of dimensional right under his eye, and another piece that's equally as small right here under his wing. I want to make sure you can't see that from the front. And then I need just a tiny bit I'm going to cut just a small sliver and put that down right down his tail. Looks like I might need to trim this end just a little. There we go. Now removing that backing, I'm going to put my bird, and in this case, on the other one, I didn't have a lot of room, so his feet were completely hidden, and on this one I do want to see a little bit more of his feet. So there we go. All right. And I think we're ready to mount this on the card base, and I'm going to do that with Tombow. This card has plenty going on. With the sentiment and the bird raised, I didn't think it was necessary to raise the actual card front itself. So I'm going to make sure I'm putting that on the right side of the card. Lay this down here. And get the edge just the way I want it. All right, there we have the card front done. Now I'm going to add some of the very largest rhinestones because I want big impact here. And in the case of this one, I want it to hide that place that we joined the one branch in. So okay. There we go. Now, on this one, I didn't do anything with the eye of the bird, and I thought that might be another place to add a tiny rhinestone just to see what that did to perk him up a little bit. And I think that's just fine. I like it. Okay, so on the inside of this one, I just put a few little flowers and a couple of leaves. And in this case, I've cut this little strip that's a 1/4 of an inch, I believe. Yeah, 1/4 of an inch by about 4 inches. And I like putting things on the bottoms of the cards and adding some extra little dimension. So on this one, using my silicone mat here and a little bit of snail, I'm going to add this piece to the bottom of the card, leaving a little bit of a border on the bottom and the edge. There we go. It's got a little more glue on it that I can take that off with my eraser. All right, now you see I have this giant bag full of flowers, and what I did was I cut a few extra leaves and a few extra flowers, and I thought it would be kind of fun to put a little cluster of flowers down here on the bottom of the inside of the card. And on these, I think, because I want these to be flat, I'm going to try adding just a little bit of snail to the back of these and get them placed, because I can always erase any excess that's left. And I want these to be very flat. And then I have a silver wink of Stella, and I thought I could add, since I don't want to put a rhinestone because I don't want to raise them up, put a little of the silver wink of Stella on the insides of these flowers to add just a little extra sparkle to the inside of the card. And so there we have our project for today, pretty quick once you get your pieces cut. And I don't know about you, but when I cut pieces, as long as I'm going to cut, I generally cut several so that if I get inspired and want to make a few more cards, I can do that pretty easily. Also, for my classes that I do, I often will make a couple different ones to use as the examples for people as they take the class. So there we have it for today, using the Flourish Thinlit dies. And I think it's a pretty festive and kind of a fun little card to make with the inside. And then you could use your stamps out of the Flourish set to stamp maybe this part of this Flourish here on the outside of your envelope. Would be very pretty. So that's our project for today. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching my video. You can purchase everything you see here on my 24/7 shop and blog at lbedinger.stampinup.net. This month, the hostess code, by the way, is down below for those that put in an order with me of $25 or more are automatically entered into a drawing for the month. And the drawing for the month is for an envelope punch board and a clear wink of Stella pen. And if you put in an order of $25 or more, you automatically get a product gift from me as well. And the winner of the Scalloped Top Tag Punch from last month was Noreen B. Congratulations, Noreen. And so, again, on my shop, you can purchase any of the pieces to make this. It's a lovely stamp set and die set, and I think it's got a lot of possibilities. And so until I'm back again with another 3D project or another card, I'll say bye for now.